Today we will discuss the new chapter, that is mechanical properties of solids. Here we can discuss about what is meant by deforming force and various types of stress, various types of strain, and then we will discuss about moduli of elasticity, and we will discuss about the spring model of atom, all those things that we are going to discuss in this chapter. Okay, so first of all we will discuss what is meant by deforming force and restoring force. So a force which changes the shape and size of a body is called a deforming force. It is a force which changes the shape and size of a body. For example, here in this diagram you can see that in that image you can see a person is jumping. No, as the person jumps and comes down to that wooden block, you can see that wooden support, you can see that that is bending. No, so here that force we can say that it has a deforming force. So when a deforming force is applied, the body may get deformed. No doubt that body will be shape will be changed. No, then the force developed inside the body which tried to bring the body back to its original shape and size is called a restoring force. So in that body what happens, a force will be developed in the body. That force will, what it will do? It will try to bring that object to its original shape and size. And that force is known as restoring force. Okay, so clearly you understood the difference between deforming force and restoring force. Deforming force means a force which tries to change the shape of the object. So whenever a force is acting on an object, depending on the peculiarity of the object and depending on the quantity or the how much large that force, accordingly the shape may change or size may change depending on that. Okay, that force is known as deforming force. So this deforming force, you clearly there will not be no translatory motion, no rotatory motion because of that force, but what happens, that force can only change the shape or size of the object. So as soon as a deforming force is acting on the object, a force will be acting on the object or a force will be developed on the object which will try to bring that object to bring it back to its original shape or size. And that force is known as restoring force. So restoring force will be developed when if and only if the deforming force is acting. Okay. And now we will discuss about what is meant by elasticity. So it is the property of a body by virtue of which it tends to regain its original size and shape after the applied force is removed. Okay. So whenever a force is acting on an object, whenever a deforming force is acting, what happens? It may be elongated or compressed accordingly, in which direction we are applying force, accordingly it will be elongation or compression, whatever it will be taking place. So once the deforming force is removed, and up to what extent that object can regain its original size and shape, and that property is known as elasticity. Okay, elasticity means it is the property of a body by virtue of which it tends to regain its original size and shape after the applied force is removed. Various examples of elastic materials are there. Quartz fiber, it is the best example, and phosphor, bronze, it is an alloy. Okay, so these are various examples of elastic materials. Okay, and now we will discuss what is meant by plasticity. So that is clear what is meant by plasticity. Once the deforming force is removed, those materials cannot regain their original shape. It is the inability of a body in regaining its original status on the removal of the deforming force. Once the deforming force is removed, that object cannot regain its original shape or size. Such materials are known as, or such property is known as plasticity, and such materials which exhibit this phenomena we can say it as plastic materials. Best examples are wax and mud. Okay, And now we will discuss about the elastic behavior of solids. So here we can see that here in the case of solid we can assume that these atoms or they can be attached with another atom. Actually those springs shows the intermolecular force of attraction. Okay, interatomic force or intermolecular force of attraction between them it is shown. So once if we try to change the shape, what happens because of this force of attraction? A restoring force will be developed which will try to bring it back to its original position. Okay, so actually no such springs are existing between these atoms or nuclei. They are showing the either interatomic forces or intermolecular force acting between the nuclei, and that because of those intermolecular force elastic behavior of solids arises. Okay, so whenever we are trying to deform that object, what happens? The position of atom will be changed, and in between atoms force is acting, no, interatomic force will be acting, so which will try to bring it its original shape, which will try to bring, if we are stretching, what happens? This interatomic force will try to bring it back to original position. If we are compressing, again it will try to bring back to its original position. Okay, so that elastic behavior of solids can be understood by the spring model of spring model of solids. And now we will discuss about stress and strain. In the chapter unit and dimension, when we discussed about dimensions, there already we specified what is meant by stress. So here we will discuss what is meant by stress. Stress means the restoring force or deforming force experienced by a unit area is called stress. So we can say stress as the force acting per unit area. Okay, force acting per unit area is known as stress, and its unit we can say Newton per meter square, and dimension very easily we can write m L raised to minus 2 T raised to minus 2, which means you can see that it has the same dimension as that of pressure. In the case of pressure also we are defining pressure as thrust by area. It is the perpendicular force acting per unit area. So we can say stress and pressure both are having same dimension and same unit. Okay, so stress means any force, any deforming force or restoring force acting per unit area, that is known as stress. In unit area, how much deforming force is acting, that is known as stress. And stress we can classify into three. So first of all we will discuss what is meant by normal stress. So when the elastic restoring force or deforming force acts perpendicular to the area, the stress is called normal stress. Okay, when the elastic restoring force, if the force is acting perpendicular to that area, then we can call that stress as normal stress. Again we can subdivide that into different categories. Tensile stress, here you can see that in the case of that cylindrical shape, a wire, in the case of a wire its what cross section is circular shape, actually it is of cylindrical shape, no, cross section we can see that it is circular in shape. So if we are applying force, that force will be always acting perpendicular to the area. If you are trying to stretch that wire, the force will be acting perpendicular to that area. So we can say it as tensile stress. And compressive stress you can see here, because of that there will be compression, no? Okay, and next one it is volume stress. So volume stress means the force will be acting, force per unit area will be acting equally from all directions, because of which there will be a change in volume. Okay, is it clear? That is known as volume stress. Again another category is that tangential or shearing stress. So when the elastic restoring force or deforming force acts parallel to the surface area. If it is acting parallel, not perpendicular. If it is acting perpendicular, we will call it as tensile stress. And if it is acting parallel to that area, we will call it as tangential or shearing stress. Okay. So here you can see that if that force is acting parallel to that surface, because of which what happens, that lower part of the surface remains there itself, but upper part is getting tilted by an angle theta. Okay, and that linear, how far it is linearly it is displaced, that it is shown as delta x. So here F is acting, force is acting parallel to that surface. Here you can see that book. When you are applying force, what happens? If you are when you are applying force parallel to that surface, only upper part will be shifted, lower part will remain there itself. Okay. So these are various examples of tangential or shearing stress. Now we will discuss about strain. Okay. Ratio of change in configuration to the original configuration, or in other words we can say that ratio of change in dimension to original dimension, that is known as strain. Strain is equal to change in configuration by original configuration, or we can say that change in dimension by original dimension. Okay, so initially what is the dimension, and after applying that force, whether it is which type of stress, according we have discussed now 3 types of stress accordingly, whether length is changed, volume is changed, whether there is a shift in the angle. Okay, all those accordingly we can classify strain also into different categories that we will discuss. So we can say it is a dimensionless quantity. Why? Because change in one dimension by change in one quantity divided by original quantity. So both dimension will get cancelled. So it is a dimensionless quantity. And strains are of different types. So first of all we will discuss longitudinal strain. So when we define longitudinal strain, how can we define longitudinal strain? Longitudinal strain is equal to change in length by original length. If a wire is there, and if you are applying tensile stress, if you are applying a perpendicular force, because of which what happens, the length of the wire is getting increased. So change in length divided by original length. How to find change in length? Final length minus initial length you can find, then you will get change in length divided by original length. Okay, that will be longitudinal strain. And another name of longitudinal strain is linear strain. And next one is volumetric strain. I told you, by if we are exerting force from all directions, what happens, because of which there will be a compression. No. In the case of balloon, okay, if you are exerting, when you are filling air, what happens, the volume of the balloon increases. Okay. So all those are examples of there is change in volume. Okay. So in the case of volumetric strain, we can define volumetric strain as change in volume divided by original volume. And last one is shearing strain. Okay. So that also one by one we will discuss here. First one, longitudinal strain. So by exerting force, we are elongating that a stage will be reached. It may break also, that is shown in the diagram. Okay. So length is increased by exerting force perpendicular to that surface area. So longitudinal strain is equal to change in length divided by original length. Change in length means delta L. It can be seen from the diagram. That is the increased length divided by its actual length. And another one, it is volume strain, volumetric strain. So that can be written as change in volume divided by original volume. Okay. So when a force is exerted, so delta V is the change in volume, V is original volume, we can write delta V by V. Next one is shearing strain. This arises, I told you, when a force is acting parallel to the surface. So what happens, how far it is displaced, the upper surface, how far it is displaced, that angle is known as shearing strain. So shearing strain is equal to theta, and for small angles already we discussed, angle is equal to arc length divided by radius. No, for small angles, or we can write sin theta is equal to sin theta is approximately equal to theta. So we can write opposite what E dash by AE. No, E dash by AE we can write, but it is arc length by radius, or we can say that tan theta is equal to opposite side divided by adjacent side. Okay, is it clear? So that we can write it as delta L divided by L. So how far that upper surface is tilted, that angle is known as shearing strain. Again, it is also a dimensionless quantity. Okay, so L stands for the length and delta L means how far that upper surface is tilted by the force which acts parallel to the surface. So here a graph is plotted which shows the variation of force with distance. So these dotted lines, you can see that above this horizontal axis, that we can say if the distance becomes lesser, the force will become repulsive, and below that horizontal axis, below that distance axis, we can say that below the axis where distance is plotted, the force will be attractive. Okay, and the solid line actually shows the actual interaction. So above the horizontal axis, we can say that force will be repulsive, but that is when the objects are coming or when the molecules or atoms are coming much closer, the force will become repulsive, and up to a certain distance only that force will become attractive. Okay, is it clear? And now we will discuss about Hooke's law. So Hooke's law states that within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. Actually, it is a law which gives the relation between stress and strain. It is experimentally observed law. So Hooke was the first person who noticed. That's why the name goes to him only. So according to Hooke's law, we can say that stress is directly proportional to strain within the elastic limit. What is meant by elastic limit? That later on we will discuss. Okay. So within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain, or stress by strain is equal to constant, or we can write stress equal to a constant into strain, and that constant is known as modulus of elasticity. So if we are plotting a graph between stress and strain, what we can see? We will get a straight line graph. Okay, we'll get a straight line graph because stress is directly proportional to strain, or stress by strain we can call it as a constant, and that constant is known as modulus of elasticity. And here we are plotting a graph between stress and strain. Okay, a curve is plotted between stress and strain. So here you can see that is for a material. As stress is increased, what will happen to the strain? That a graph is plotted between stress and strain. So here different parts it is marked. One is OA. No, OA shows the elastic behavior, and B, that point you can see that elastic limit or yield point, and that point A is known as proportional limit, and CD, that region we can say it as plastic behavior and fracture point. All those we will discuss one by one what it is. Okay, so a graph is plotted between stress and strain, and that graph is known as stress strain curve. Okay, now we will discuss one by one. OA, first we will start with OA. This part obeys Hooke's law. Okay, this part OA obeys Hooke's law, but it says stress is directly proportional to strain. So as stress increases, we can say that strain is also increases. The point O is called elastic limit. Okay, not O, A is called B is called elastic limit or yield point, and corresponding to that stress is called yield strength, and in this region we can say that material behaves like an elastic material. Okay, and AB. Okay, what is AB? Here in this part AB you can see that at any point between A and B, if the deforming force is removed, the body will never return to the original position. But results a permanent change in length. Okay. So here we can see that at any point between A and B, if the deforming force is removed, it will never return to the original length but results in a permanent change in length. Okay. And for the part BC, the stress corresponding to the point C is called ultimate tensile strength. So this is the maximum stress that can be applied to a wire. Okay. So if we are applying C, up to C we can apply a force. So between B and C, what happens? Between B and C, if you are applying force, it will not regain its original shape. Once we remove the stress, actually what happens? Strain should be 0. No, it should come back to its original position, but it will not happen between B and C. What happens? There will be some permanent elongation will be there. Okay. So that is the maximum stress that can be applied to a wire. That point corresponds to C. So up to B we can say that it will come back to its original position once it is removed. But in between B and C there will be some permanent elongation will be there. And next one is part CD. Beyond the point C, additional strain is produced even by a reduced stress and the wire breaks at D. Okay. So here what happens beyond CD? Beyond CD, beyond the point C, if we are applying a small stress itself, additional strain will be produced, and finally it will be result in the breaking of the material. Okay. So that point E is known as fracture point. Okay. Beyond that point, at that point E we can say that is the fracture point. So what is meant by ductile solids? Materials have a large CD region is called ductile solids. Large CD region means plastic region will be larger. Okay. That type of material will say it as ductile solids. That is, there will be permanent elongation, but it will not break fast. That is, fracture point will be far away from the elastic limit. Okay. That materials are known as ductile solids. That because of that property itself, they can be drawn into thin wires. Example, copper, aluminium. Now, brittle materials means this point C and D will be closer. Okay. That is, as soon as the elastic behavior changing into plastic behavior quickly, there will be that point will be that plastic region will be smaller. Okay. Plastic region will be smaller. So, quickly once it changed from elastic behavior to plastic behavior, suddenly breaks as soon as the ultimate strength is crossed. That example is glass. Now elastomer. Elastomer means substances which can stretch to large values of strain are called elastomer. Okay, those materials we can stretch those materials to large values of strain. Can be stretched to larger. That type of materials are known as elastomer. Example, rubber band and iota. These materials, one important property is that these materials does not obey Hooke's law. That is, stress strain curve will not be straight line, it will be a curve. Okay. So, in the case of Hooke's law, up to that proportional limit, we can say that stress is directly proportional to strain. Now, we will discuss about the different moduli of elasticity. Among that, first of all, we will discuss this Young's modulus that already we discussed. According to Hooke's law, within elastic limits, stress is directly proportional to strain, or stress equal to a constant into strain, and that constant is given by stress by strain. It is known as modulus of elasticity. And there are three types of modulus of elasticity. Young's modulus, that is represented by Y, bulk modulus by B, and rigidity modulus by G or N. So Young's modulus, it is related to normal stress by longitudinal strain, or we can say linear stress by linear strain. So we know that stress given by F by A, and longitudinal strain we discussed delta L by L. That is, we are considering a wire and we are applying force on the wire, because of which that wire is getting elongated, and delta L is the increased length, L is the actual length, and F is the force acting, and A is the area. So we can write y is equal to F by A divided by delta L by L, and what is A? Area is pi r square, because cross sectional is of circular shape. So we can write y is equal to FL divided by pi r square delta L. F is force, R is radius, L is original length, delta L is change in length, and unit is Newton per meter square or Pascal. And next one is bulk modulus. So bulk modulus, here we are representing, again it is as stress by volume strain. Here there will be change in volume. Wherever change in volume arises, there bulk modulus comes. So F by A divided by delta V by V, and F by A can be written as pressure, no? Okay, pressure, it can be mentioned as pressure, that is for a spherical object, not only for spherical object, for any object. Okay, if the force is acting uniformly from all directions, because of which there will be a change in volume, in that situation bulk modulus arises. So we can write it as F by A can be written as pressure. So bulk modulus equal to minus P by delta V by V, and what negative sign shows? As force increases, there will be decrease in volume, that is shown by that negative sign. Okay. So when we are writing bulk modulus, we will not write it by negative value. That negative sign only shows that as the force because of the application of the force, there is a decrease in volume, to show that only that minus sign stands. So V stands for the original volume, delta V is change in volume, and B is bulk modulus. And the reciprocal of bulk modulus is known as compressibility. Okay. Compressibility is represented as the reciprocal of bulk modulus. And another type of modulus of elasticity is rigidity modulus, and that is given by tangential stress by shearing strain. Okay, tangential stress by shearing strain. What is tangential stress? Already we discussed. So that is can be written as F by A divided by theta, and theta is given by delta L by L, where F is applied force, A is area, L is original length, and delta L is not change in length, actually how far that upper surface is shifted, that is given by delta L. So here also we can say unit is given by Newton per meter square or Pascal, as that is all moduli of rigidity has the same unit as that of stress or pressure. Okay, that's why we are writing it as Newton per meter square or Pascal. So here it is a table which shows the comparison. Okay, so which are the types of stress? Already we discussed tensile or compressive stress, and that stress, two equal and opposite forces perpendicular to opposite faces, or elongation or compression will be there parallel to the force direction. Longitudinal strain will be there. There will be change in shape but no change in volume, and that will be resulting in modulus of elasticity, that is known as Young's modulus. It is given by F by A into L by delta L, and for solids mainly Young's modulus arises. Next one comes shearing modulus. So shearing stress, in the case of shearing stress, already we discussed force is acting parallel to the surfaces. So there will be only angle will be there. So there will be change in shape, but there will not be change in volume. Okay. So name of modulus, we can write G is equal to F into theta by A, F by A into that shearing strain, and that is given by shear modulus. Okay, F by A by theta. Okay. Is it clear? And that is also only for solids. Next one is hydraulic or volumetric stress. So there volume change will be there, but shape will be as such, that shape will be there. By shape, whatever may be that, if it is spherical shape, it will be continued to be in spherical shape itself, but there will be change in volume. So bulk modulus can be written as minus P by delta V by V, and here also in the case of shearing, also what we can write, shearing stress divided by shearing strain. So F by A by theta, not F into theta by A. Okay, F by A theta. So here in the case of hydraulic stress or volumetric stress, that will be resulting in bulk modulus, and it is applicable. It will be all type of solid, liquids and gases. In the case of Young's modulus and shear modulus, that will be only for solids. Okay. So what we discussed, what you know. Which one is more elastic, rubber or iron? Steel or rubber? Okay, rubber or steel, which is more elastic? You may say that rubber is more elastic than iron. But that is not true. Iron is more elastic. Why? Those materials for which large amount of stress cause less amount of strain are more elastic. No. That is, we are applying a force, and because of that, if the force is larger also, and if it produces a small strain, we can say that material is more elastic. So when iron and rubber are subjected to same stress, rubber can be stretched easily but iron cannot. So we can say that iron is more elastic than rubber. Or in other words, we can say that whichever material is having larger value of Young's modulus of elasticity, they will be more elastic than the other material. Okay. So if we are applying small force itself, if it can be extended, no, it can be stretched to larger. But then, and if we are applying large force, then also if the extension is smaller, that will be more elastic. Okay, that's why we will say that steel or iron is more elastic than rubber, because when we are applying large force also, steel material will remain as such itself. No, if a steel wire is there, by exerting large force also you cannot extend it. Okay, you have to apply a huge force. But in the case of rubber, with small force itself you can extend it faster. So we can say that steel is more elastic than rubber. Okay, or iron is more elastic than rubber. And why the springs are made up of iron and not of copper? A good spring will be that in which a large restoring force is developed on being deformed. This in turn depends on the elasticity of the material of the spring. Since Young's modulus for steel is more than that of copper, therefore the springs made of steel and not of copper. Why? Because a good spring will be that in which a large restoring force is developed on being deformed. And that depends on the elasticity. So Young's modulus of steel is more than that of copper. So normally we used to make that, therefore the springs are made of steel and not of copper. Okay. And why bridges are declared unsafe after many years of use? Okay, sometimes you might have seen, no, after many years of use, they will close the bridge and they will construct new bridge, or the same bridge itself renovation will be taking place, like that you might have seen. Why it is so? Due to the repeated stress and strain, the material used in the bridges loses elastic strength. Okay. Due to continuous stress and strain, what happens? The material used in the bridges loses elastic strength and ultimately chances of collapsion. Okay, it may collapse. Because of which bridges are declared unsafe after long use. Okay, is it clear? So today we discussed about, which are the topics what we today we discussed? We discussed about different types of stresses, different types of moduli of elasticity and stress strain curve, and which is more elastic, that already we discussed. What is meant by elastomer we discussed, examples we discussed. So you can go through this video, and this stress strain curve is very important. You should know each term, what is meant by proportional limit, what is meant by elastic limit, what is meant by fracture point, and which what is meant by elastic region, plastic region, ductile material, brittle material, all those can be identified from that stress strain curve. It is very important. So you can go through that stress strain curve, and not only in that topic, remaining topics also you can go through that. And if you are having doubt, you can communicate that to me. Okay, thank you.